Hey guys, we're back at it again with the reaction. And in today's video, we're continuing our reaction from yesterday. And this is the Llama Arts 2017 compilation. These are some more true horror stories animated by him. But the stories that he's animating are animated stories of Mr. Nightmare's videos. I did do a couple reactions to him. I don't really do much of reactions to him as much anymore at all, due to reasons. Other than that, before we get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell to always be notified of any new videos we upload to this channel. Also, if you go to the channel, this channel here, you'll see that we did some updates to it. We're collaborating with another YouTube channel that I will be doing a reaction to a video that I'm waiting to come out. The name of the channel is Michael Straw. Go over there and support him at all. Literally. He does Outlast stuff and also podcasts other things. Other than that, the link to this video will be in the description down below. Anyways, let's get into the video.
Time goes on, even the worst of memories may start to fade. But after writing this to share with the internet, it's once again fresh in my mind.
House sitting horror stories, great. I'm gonna be house sitting these houses. No.
A couple weeks ago, my dad came home and pitched me a small job offer. One of his coworkers was going away for a few days and needed somebody he could trust to watch over his house. The reason my dad pitched this to me was because the man's house has a big CCTV system, basically a camera in every room, and then an operating desk where all screens could be watched on a big monitor. And I'm a computer science major, so my dad just always assumes that I know how to work anything technological. The man told my dad that he'd pay me $200 for the 2 days just to watch the house. Whatever that meant. My dad drove me to the house and introduced me to the man, whose name doesn't matter. The man made it seem like he preferred us stay in the upstairs room with the monitors as opposed to roaming the house all
What does
day.
this guy look like?
That was fine with me
Works at
though.
a business place. I'm
So
just
when I
saying.
wasn't eating, I was mostly just sitting in that room with the TV on in the background and doing schoolwork on my laptop. Ironically, the thing I was doing the least was keeping an eye on the monitors. Night came. I started wondering where in the house I should sleep, since surprisingly, we hadn't discussed that. So I sat back down at the desk and looked at all the different rooms on the screens to see which rooms had beds or couches. I noticed something I wasn't expecting to notice though. The back screen door was open downstairs. I didn't remember it being open. I looked through each and every camera screen in a panic.
The hell, man?
In the living room, a closet door was open. This one I knew wasn't open earlier.
What the fuck?
I texted my dad to call the man and ask him if he came back home.
Hardly
Meanwhile, I
doubt the man ever
continued
came
watching
back,
the screen.
Yes, Sam.
On the grainy, dark image, a tall person who resembled only a black shadow on the screen stepped out from the closet. I pulled my arms off the desk as I covered my mouth with my hands in shock. As I did this, however, my left elbow pulled some heavy object from the desk onto the floor, creating a big thud.
Oh.
The person in the image very clearly moved their head up to the ceiling as a response to the noise.
Come on, man! Come on!
They went for the stairs, walking up very, very slowly, step by step. Meanwhile, I got a text back from my dad saying, "No, he's not. I just spoke to him half an hour ago. Why?" I got so caught up in my phone texting my dad to send help that I didn't even pay attention to the monitor. There was a knock at the door. I looked at it and then the screens. The first screen I laid my eyes on was the one showing the person outside the door to the room I was in.
No.
When I remembered that door had no lock, the only thing I could think to do was...
You know what we do in this situation? We open up the window. We don't care. We should not give a fuck. If it's on the second floor, we're jumping out. We're opening the window, jumping the fuck out, calling your phone the person of the house that owns it, and then you call the goddamn cops after you make sure from the person that owns the house that you're calling to make sure they ain't got nobody that has keys to the house or anybody they know of that would be coming that day. And if they don't have anybody they know that they'd ever give keys to, or they would never give their keys to any family friends at all, nor would they let them into their house, it's a good time to call the cops after you get out the window and you start running. I could care less if you. I could care less if I sprained my foot or something. I'm running. And then you got people out here who take this into precaution. Don't like dudes. If you got people out here who sometimes, even if they're high, they run like a person. They run like they should in situations like this. You run. You just fucking run. Enough said.
Jump out the window into the bushes below. I ran halfway down the block and then stopped when my dad called me. I had him call his friend and ask him if he was expecting somebody in the house. The man said he had no relatives or friends who had his key or would ever let themselves into his home. So he called the cops and had them review the footage. I got to watch all of it, and it showed everything. From the moment the intruder broke the glass to the backyard door, to the moment I jumped out the window and him running away shortly after. The intruder was never found. The footage was just too dark to identify his face.
Dude, you can barely see the man's face, but I would care less what he looks like. I'm running like a piece, like a bitch. I'm like a pussy. I ain't fucking this shit. Hell no. We don't do this.
In the year 2009, I was spending a weekend with my uncle on his ranch when my parents were renovating the new house we had just bought. It was my second night there, a Saturday, and it happened to be during one of the biggest thunderstorms of the year. I'd say there were at least 3 crashes of thunder and lightning per minute. And we were in the heart of the storm because the thunder would crash not even a second after the lightning would. I always enjoyed listening to storms while laying in bed. So I stayed up a little later watching TV, just enjoying the ambiance.
Sorry, but that's just ugly as hell.
After the movie I was watching finally ended, I turned off the TV and tried to fall asleep.
No, I leave the TV on. That's how I sleep.
As I heard the lightning strike from outside, I could have sworn I heard some kind of metallic thud coming from outside at the same time. I didn't pay it too much mind. 20 seconds later,
What the hell is that?
I could have sworn I heard it again. A very distinct metallic thud coming from outside to match the timing of the lightning. I really don't mean to make this sound like a cliche horror story, but my uncle really is a kind of creepy guy, and I was never close with him even remotely. So for that reason, I didn't feel right going to wake him up. I just tried to forget about it. Now I was getting concerned. What the hell could that be? After the third time, I finally got out of bed and walked over to the window of the guest bedroom. The water pouring down on the window made it extra hard to see what was out there in the dark fields. A flash of lightning momentarily lit up the property, but I couldn't see anything. However, once again, the sound of a metal hit accompanied it. The sound was so close now, it sounded like it was coming from the left of the window at a blind spot. I was going to do something I knew my uncle wouldn't be happy about. It would be a bit messy, but I was going to open the window and peer outside to see if I could see what the sound was. I unhooked the window lock and slid it up, and immediately the wind of the storm blew drops of rain into the room and onto me. I stuck my head out the window and looked to the left, and at that very moment, lightning lit up the property once again, and I could see a person dressed in all black crouched down by the outside basement door with his hand raised in the air. And before the sky went dark, I caught the briefest glimpse of what the sound was coming from. The person was bashing at the basement door lock. I pulled my head in and quietly shut the window, making sure to lock it. I was in a panic. I feared he might have seen or heard me. I ran back to bed and pretended to be asleep, facing away from the window. Lightning crashed once again, but this time there was no metallic thud. My heart must have dropped as I realized this. I just stayed put in bed for the longest time, hoping whoever was out there would go away. After maybe 3 more lightning crashes without any thuds accompanying them, I thought it would be safe to go tell my uncle. I turned to face the window and screamed. There was a figure, clear as day, standing at the window, looking in at me.
Hell to the no.
I screamed as loud as I could and ran straight to my uncle's room. He went outside with his hunting rifle, with nothing on but his pajamas, not even socks. He ran around the entire property yelling like a madman, but didn't find anyone. The next morning, we were able to better see the marks on the basement door lock. It was almost bashed open. Maybe 3 or 4 more good hits would have done it, according to my uncle. He was proud of me for picking up on it. Luckily, I was out of there that same day. My uncle hasn't told us of any incidents since, so I think he's been okay. Not that we talk to him much at all. I'm grateful I stayed up a little later that night watching that movie, because I may have just stopped a robbery, or possibly much worse.
Okay, next story.
This happened a week ago. Up until a few days ago, I went to a small, local gym in my now previous New Jersey town called Black Bear Fitness. One day, I had the misfortune of running into some skinny, awkward, yet creepy-looking kid, probably 18 years old.
Looks like he's a drug addict.
He didn't look like he belonged in a gym at all. I had headphones in and I was doing my set when I heard him saying something to me, but it was muffled by the music.
Or a meth house.
I was already annoyed with this kid, given that he was breaking an unwritten rule of the gym. Don't try to talk to somebody when they're doing their sets. I took my time finishing my set, and then took my headphones out to ask if he needed something. Then he started acting like I looked familiar, but right away I knew this kid was just trying some pathetic attempt at making friends. I assured him I didn't, but the kid wouldn't stop talking to me.
Oh, fuck's sake.
I'll skip most of the conversation, but eventually he actually asked me for my Instagram and Snapchat, weirdly enough, and for whatever reason I gave them to him. Instead of just saying something like, buddy, I'm trying to work out, or I don't have social media.
Or go fuck yourself.
After I gave him my Snapchat and Instagram, however, I did kind of urge him to let me resume my workout. He finally seemed to get the message and walked away. Not without saying bye like 3 times, though.
Damn.
That night, I got a snap on my phone saying from Sean. I immediately sighed and said, oh no. Just wondering why the hell the kid would snap me.
When you meet somebody you don't know,
I opened the snap, and the kid was in a creepy, weird pose, face way too close to the camera, with his head resting in his hand and a half smile on his face. The text over the picture was "Hey" with 2 Y's.
The hell is this?
I muttered the words, what the fuck?
Indeed, what the actual...
For the record, I'm a guy, which made this even more weird.
The fuck?
My thought process was, I've had enough of this loser already. I'm gonna remove him and make it clear I don't want to talk if I see him at the gym again. And so I did. I removed him minutes after he sent that snap.
Why'd you add him in the first place?
I'm sure not even a minute later, again, a message popped up on my phone saying Snapchat from Sean. I waited a few minutes before opening it. This one was even creepier. Now the kid was sitting up on his bed, no smile, more of a surprised, angry expression. The text over the image said, "Why did you remove me?"
Dude, looks like he's
now I went as far as to block him, meaning he couldn't snap me anymore.
Like, I'm bringing
that was that. I threw my phone on the desk and sighed out of relief. Half an hour later, my phone goes off, saying Sean added you as a friend, and then Snapchat from Sean. He actually made a new account.
Look, can I just say one thing? Here's this. Here's what you do in a situation. Once they try to break in your house, you kick their ass, get them arrested because they have to go to jail for the shit they're doing. You skip town, or you move away from that location. You turn your snap map off because you obviously know they're gonna find you through that. They know where you live then. He knows where you live, man. See, this is why when you see people like this and they come up like, hey, can I get your Snapchat or any social media you have? You don't. Mate, I'll give you a little advice, which is called fuck off. I don't know you. I don't want to know you. You look like you're a meth head. You may not be, but you give off creepy vibes. So I'm sorry. No, don't take this as rudeness, but man, can you please go screw yourself and go talk to somebody else who might want to be your friend? Because I don't want to for many reasons. Okay, I am sorry, but let me get back to doing my sets and shit and go fuck yourself. Wait, I'm not trying to be rude and all, but please just leave me alone. Because this is the crap that would happen. I'm just saying, it may not always happen, but if it did happen, this is how it would go. Just saying.
I opened the snap and felt my heart drop. It was a
What I
picture
tell
of my
you,
front
bitch?
lawn. The text over it, "Answer me, bitch." The first thing I could
Damn.
think of was, how did he find my address?
Snap map.
Then I realized
5 out of 10.
Snapchat made that new map feature that lets you see
Told
where your
you.
friends are.
Boom, bitch.
Somehow I
You
had the
see, this
balls
is
to
why
open
we
the
keep
window
that
to see
off.
outside.
For many
It was
reasons.
clear out there. I shut the window and the blinds and started considering calling 911.
Kick his ass.
It was the sound of taps on the window. I took a deep breath, and with one swift motion, I pulled up the blind and the window at the same
Beat his
time and
ass.
pulled the kid into my room by
Kick
his
his
neck.
ass.
I punched him in the face a few times before he was out cold.
Yes.
Now
Mission
I called
accomplished.
911.
Knocked his ass out.
By the time they arrived, he was awake, cursing me out, promising he'd be back and kill me. The cops heard it all. I didn't even have to make a case. The kid was an idiot. Luckily, the timing of this worked out well because I just moved a couple days ago out of state. Only thing that worries me, I don't want to have to make a new Snapchat account, but anytime somebody new adds me on the app, I'll never know if it's secretly that Sean kid again.
Oh, it was in the window.
I was vacationing in the Bahamas when I was 14 with some family friends. My friend and I were getting some henna tattoos at the hotel, and there was
I'm
this guy
just saying,
lingering
we don't
around
deal with
us.
this kind of
But we
shit.
didn't think much of it because a lot of people
Why
would
the hell does
stop to
this
see
guy
what
look like
was
a
going
meth
on.
cartel man?
After mine was done, I told my
I'm
friend and
just
her
saying.
mom I was going to go back to the room to get ready for dinner. There were two ways to the other side of the hotel, either inside through a bunch of small stores or outside along the pool. I walked through the inside and got to the elevator, where I saw the guy who had been watching us already at the elevator. We got on together, and he gestured for me to choose my floor button first. I clicked it, but he didn't choose another floor. Alarms start going off in my head. But what could I do? I was stuck in an elevator. The elevator stopped on my floor, and I started walking to my room. In this hotel, most of the rooms faced the ocean, so to the right in this hallway were just windows. I was in the
Why
very
does that
last room on that
kind of feel
floor,
creepy to
and
me?
I
I'm
could see
just
the guy
saying, I don't
following
fuck
me
with
about
this
10
shit.
feet behind.
I don't.
About 2 doors from my room, he ran up and grabbed me. I kicked and screamed, and he dropped onto the floor. I ran to the room and locked myself in. After talking with security and giving a description, they found the guy and found out that he had actually been following multiple younger women in the building.
Damn, man, this man's a stalker and a criminal. Just saying. God damn. God damn it. Fucking ass.
Back in high school, I took a mysteries and mythology type class, or
The
something
fuck
like that.
is
I don't
that
remember the
thing?
name of
The
the
fuck?
class. It
Is that like a
basically just had to do with real life
inbred toad with a
mysteries and
titty on
creepy
it
shit.
or something?
I was into that kind of stuff.
Hey, it
I
looks
was taking
fucking
the class with
Titanic.
a good friend, who I'll call Ben for this story. The teacher of the class took us on a field trip to a nearby abandoned village with an unknown past. The village was built in the early 1900s, but seems as though it had been quickly abandoned shortly after it was built. The bus ride there was about 20 minutes. All of us were glued to the bus windows as we pulled up some sketchy looking, decrepit road cutting through dense forest. The road eventually led to a clearing. We were there. We stepped out onto the road, which had grass growing through the cracks. The
Yeah,
grass
so the
surrounding was
animation's
almost
not bad.
knee-high. Then there were the
Jesus
buildings.
fucking Christ, this area,
The
I would not
tall,
fuck with.
archaic brick buildings with the boarded-up windows all gave off such chilling vibes.
But golly.
The teacher lined all 20 of us up, counted heads, and then began leading the way. The point of this little field trip was to use the so-called skills we learned in class to see if we could put anything together about why the village may have been abandoned so long ago. Some of the buildings had holes in the walls to serve as entryways. There were even holes in the ground next to some of the buildings, seemingly dug to get into the basements of some of the buildings, which seemed creepy. There was one building, though. It
The
stood
hell is a
taller than
basement
any
gonna
of
be
the
doing?
others.
Why do you got
It
holes
just
dig in the
intrigued me the
ground if it's a
most.
basement? And you're not gonna
While
use
the
it? The
teacher
fuck,
was leading the
man?
group towards the
What the
village
fuck?
church, Ben and I decided to sneak off on our own to look for anything
Oh,
interesting.
hell no, I stick with the group.
When we
Fuck
walked off
that.
in the direction of the tallest building, we saw a hole in the ground. It was dug by the back door of the building, which had been sealed off. In the hole was a ladder, which led down to the concrete floor below. We both looked at each other and knew we had to do it. Ben climbed down first, then me. Luckily, this was just around the time Apple started putting flashlights on their phones, so we had a source of light.
At least you got
It was
light
creepy
at the
down there.
most, because we don't fuck with all
There
that
were a
shit.
couple of beer bottles, one graffiti tag on the wall, and dusty wooden planks everywhere. There was a wooden stairway which led up to complete darkness, since all windows and doors had been sealed shut from above. We had already gone as far as to enter the building, so we figured we'd go up the stairs too. I went first, and with each step, the creakiness of the 100-year-old wood made me feel as if I was going to fall through each and every step. Ben followed suit.
God damn, why are you in the building, though?
This
Why are
floor
you
of the
in the
building
building?
was very tight.
What the fuck?
It
We
seemed like
don't
there were
go in the
many
buildings like this,
openings going off into
man.
different, smaller
The
rooms.
reason why it was
It was
probably
so dark in there,
abandoned
you would
is the
never even
reason why
guess it
you
was
shouldn't
daytime.
go inside. God
Ben and I were
damn it.
honestly starting to get
What
creeped
the
out in
fuck?
there and agreed to go back outside.
Like,
But just
seriously.
then,
The
there
fuck,
was a
man?
noise in one of the
What the
tiny
fuck?
rooms, like a big rock hitting the concrete floor.
What the fuck?
A normal instinct would be to run,
Yeah,
but Ben
no,
and
the
I
instinct is you
froze,
get the hell out of
locked eyes
Dodge.
for a
You
moment,
move. You run
then
like a
both
pussy.
tiptoed over to
Well,
the
I
opening
mean,
of the
not run
room.
like a pussy, but it's an
We
expression.
shined the
You
lights into
run,
the
you
room
just run
and
away.
ran. We ran back down the stairs and then up the rusty ladder back outside. We caught up to the group out of breath. We didn't say anything, though, to avoid getting in trouble. One of our classmates asked us what was wrong. We told him we snuck into one of the buildings, and in one of the rooms, when we shined the light into it, we saw three guys standing maybe 10 feet
What
away from
the
the
fuck?
doorway,
Why do they all
facing
look
Ben
like
and I
gang
in a
members
weird
who do
formation,
meth?
as if they were waiting for
I'm just
us.
saying.
As we continued following the group, we paid extra attention to the tall building we entered from the distance. And before leaving, we saw a person's face at one of the higher level windows that had not been boarded up. We never told the teacher in fear of getting in trouble. We didn't know what to think. Were those just homeless people living in there? Were they gang members in hiding? Ben freaks me out with his theory. He says they were ghosts of the people who once lived in the town. Still, the way the three guys were just hauntingly standing there so calmly, staring at us the moment we peeked our heads through that doorway, I still can't get that image out of my head. I may go back to that village one day. just to prove Ben's idea wrong.
Now, what the fuck, man? What the fuck are you doing, bitch? Okay, let's go. Christmas Eve horror story. Okay, these stories are scary as fuck. I'm just saying. I don't want to be in any of these situations whatsoever.
Last year on Christmas Eve, I was working late. I'm 23. I work in New York City and commute home every day on the train.
Okay,
Since I'm one of
that's
the
not
younger
bad.
ones in the
At least you're
office,
a
I got
working
stuck with
person.
one of the worst shifts, so I
Of
wasn't able to get home
course.
until 5 o'clock. My family had already left a whole hour earlier to go to my cousin's house, so I had to drive alone. After having a quick snack before the half-hour drive, I got back in my car and put my cousin's address into my phone. Halfway through the drive, it started snowing. I got to my cousin's house around 6 o'clock. It was snowing heavily by this point, and I just made it in time to catch everyone starting dinner. I brought all of my
Yes.
gifts inside and cheerfully said hey to everyone. I stayed
Merry
until around 11
Christmas,
o'clock.
boy.
The rest of my family left a little sooner. I stayed an extra half hour or so just to hang out before leaving myself. By the time I was leaving, the ground had accumulated at least 2 feet of snow, and it wasn't even done snowing. The drive home was nightmarish. The roads were hardly even plowed, and I had to drive under 20 miles per hour on most roads. The roads were completely dead at this point, though, most likely because everyone was smart enough to go home before the snow accumulated. Eventually, I turned onto a main road that I'm sure would usually be bustling, but at 11:15 on Christmas Eve night, there wasn't a single car or a single light from a store. It was a ghost town. But
Not
then
bad.
I did notice the flashing taillights of one car. It was parked on the side of the road,
The
and the
hell is the
smoke
car
seeping
doing
out from
there,
its
mate?
exhaust with the taillights giving it a red
What the
tint.
fuck?
As I got closer, I
Hell
realized there
to
was
the no.
somebody next to the car waving their hand in the air. I assumed something was wrong and they needed help. So, me being the good Samaritan I am, I pulled up behind the car. When I opened my door, the guy approached me immediately, barely even giving me time to step out. He was an average sized man, probably 5'10", 180 pounds. He spoke in a very demanding voice, asking me if I know anything about fixing an engine. I told him I didn't know much about cars. The guy responded very quickly to everything I said. He told me it's fine. He went inside of his car for a second, popped open his trunk, came back out, and told me to just wait by the trunk for a second. I had no idea what he wanted me to do. I was really confused. He walked over to the front of his car, and I heard him open the hood. I couldn't see anything he was doing since the trunk was blocking my view, and the loud wind of the snowstorm overpowered any small noises he might have been making. I put my hands on the back of the car and leaned my body in anticipation, when suddenly I heard 3 or 4 quick and aggressive footsteps in the snow behind me before I was pushed into the trunk. The man tried to close the trunk on me, but I kicked my feet up in resistance and held it up. I was able to overpower him and kick the trunk open completely. As I took advantage of the few seconds I had to get out of the trunk, I took out my
Stab the
keys.
son of a bitch.
He tried to grab me now, and I
Stab him with
dug
your
my
key.
house key right into his neck. He fell to his knees, and his scream echoed down the deserted street. I was in my car and halfway down the road before he could even get up from his knees. A little further down, I called 911 and reported the guy. I came back in 10 minutes to find blue and red lights illuminating the windows of the deserted stores. The police held him until the ambulance arrived for him. I watched the whole thing, and nothing ever felt better in my life. I got home safely half an hour later and told my family everything. I was still very shaken that Christmas, and this remains possibly the most horrific thing I've ever experienced.
Okay, and that's more true horror stories by Llama Arts 2017 compilation. Um, Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to follow me on TikTok. I got a TikTok account. It's in my about area on my channel. You can go there. Also, again, please go support Michael Straw. I'll be doing a video reaction for him whenever he gets that video out. Also, another thing, go support Llama Arts. Give him all the love. Watch his videos and all that. Like and subscribe to him as well. Anyways, see you guys. It's coming up. Let's go.